Good afternoon and welcome to EKU Then and Now. I'm your host, Paul Blanchard, and before I retired, I'd been a faculty member and administrator at Eastern for more than 35 years. This monthly series, which we're just starting, will focus on prominent and distinguished EKU faculty, staff, and alumni who've had a meaningful involvement at Eastern during its history of more than 100 years. They will comment on what EKU has been like during its storied past, how it's changed, and what we might expect in the future. Our guest this month is in several of those categories. Dr. Paul Motley, three-time alumnus of EKU and a member of the Eastern faculty for many years. He graduated from Eastern in 1963. After spending 4 years in the Marine Corps, he completed 2 graduate degrees in physical education at EKU as well. He joined the faculty in 1969 and completed his doctorate shortly after that. Paul was named a foundation professor, Eastern's highest faculty honor, in 1992. I'll be talking with him about a lot of things, particularly legendary EKU figures in the fields of physical education and athletics, especially their contributions to the academic side of the university. Paul, we've already talked a lot about this. Sure appreciate your being with us today.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
And I've got to say at the beginning, Paul Motley has a long history in the Richmond community, and in a panel discussion we had last month, you talked about caddying at the country club for Keen Johnson. Is that
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so you grew up in Richmond. Tell us a little bit about those experiences, and then why did you decide to come to Eastern?
Well, I grew up in Richmond, as I mentioned. Grew up on Kentucky Avenue, just off of Westover, and just right around the corner was Charles Turkey Hughes, who was then the athletic director and baseball coach and chairman of the Health and Physical Education and Recreation Department and athletic director and all other kinds of hats.
Swept out the gym.
It probably did. But as just a youth, as a way to earn some money, I started caddying at the Madison Country Club. And part of the pleasures of that was just meeting a lot of Eastern faculty and the Richmond people, and I caddied for. There was a foursome of Keen Johnson, who was a past governor and was back in Richmond, and I guess he was the part owner and publisher of the Richmond Register with Shelt Softly at that time. And so he and President O'Donnell and Russell Todd, who was a local prominent dentist, and I think on the Board of Regents at one time, and Cecil Way, who was a prominent I think banker and bank examiner, and Mr. Hurst, who, if I remember correctly, was a minister of one of the downtown churches up the church corner. And there were just all kinds of people that I got to meet, through the country club, and those people were so kind and nice to me that that just gave me a nice feeling about Richmond and Eastern.
And then you became a pretty good golfer yourself, I guess, and that kind of led to your coming to Eastern.
It did. I played with the Eastern golf team, I guess, from almost middle school on, and that really piqued my interest in Eastern because I knew the players, and they kind of assumed that I would come on to Eastern and play golf, and we had several golfers.
And that was Glenn Presnell?
Glenn Presnell was the golf coach at that time. But Bobby Young, who was one of the best golfers at Eastern, was a local young man, and he did marry Mr. Begley's daughter. Donald Young, who is still a very proficient golfer, played at Eastern. Tommy Hammonds was a local young man that played at Eastern before I did. So that gave me the interest, and plus I played basketball in high school, and at one time I thought I was a basketball player. So I was interested also there, and Mr. Bechtold, Jim Bechtold, who was the head coach after Coach McBrayer, was a golfer, and he followed me around in golf tournaments and encouraged me, and I was very interested in Eastern basketball at that time too, because it was something to behold to watch Eastern play in Weber. Mm-hmm. So I had an opportunity to go to UK on a golf scholarship. there was a Tut Terrell who, local young man that went to the University of Hawaii, and he sent my credentials and talked to them there, and they offered me a partial scholarship in Hawaii, but I couldn't afford to get to Lexington, let alone Hawaii. So I ended up coming to Eastern, and I had one of the first golf scholarships, I think.
Tell about how that golf scholarship came to be.
That is interesting. Mildred Maupin, the wife of Breck Maupin, a local businessman and everything, she was a very outspoken young lady, and she went to see President O'Donnell and said, you know, there's a local young man here that could need some assistance to go to school, Paul Motley. And he said, yes, I know Paul. And she said, well, why don't you have a golf scholarship for him? And in that day and time, I guess, lacking some NCAA rules and regulations, he said, well, okay.
So you still played, I mean, you still were with the basketball team, and
yes.
Say a little bit about that.
Well, Coach McBrayer and everything, I played golf. I was the golf scholarship that freshman year and everything, and felt very close with the freshman team and with Mr. Bechtold. And I think at that time there were like 15 freshmen that were on the freshman basketball team. And at the end of my freshman year, Mr. Bechtold approached me and Coach McBrayer, because at that time we did not have full-time athletic trainers. All the training duties for all the athletics was covered by student trainers. And there was a Dick Weber who had been the basketball trainer up through his graduation. And Coach McBrayer wanted me to work with Rusty Payne, the UK athletic trainer, some during that summer, and he would put me on full basketball scholarship to move into the basketball house, which at that time was Stateland Hall, and you know, be the basketball trainer. And so I did that throughout the rest of my undergraduate. I was on full basketball scholarship as the trainer, and got to sit at the feet of Coach McBrayer for at least 30 minutes every day during shooting practice, and do a lot of close association with him, and that's the reason that I'm still a member of the McBrayer family.